In today's video, we're going to be talking about cycling and an Achilles tendonitis or tendinosis or tendinopathy. Those terms can be interchanged for today's video. Whether cycling's good, bad, what are the pros and cons about using it? Hi, I'm Ali. I'm one of the physios from treatmyachilles.com. We're an online physiotherapy service treating all things related to Achilles tendons and their injuries. If you would like to find out more or how to book an appointment, please see the links below. So if you have been diagnosed with an Achilles tendinopathy or you're suspicious that you think you have one, then we need to look at whether cycling is a good idea. Some of the common questions we get is cycling good for an Achilles tendinopathy or bad for an Achilles tendinopathy, or can it cause it in the first place? So we're going to explore a few of these. If you're unsure about your diagnosis, please have a look in the videos that we have below, talking about common things that you might experience if you do have an Achilles tendonitis or tendinopathy. So cycling can be a really useful thing if you already have an Achilles tendinopathy, and we have some videos talking about cross-training to maintain fitness levels. So an Achilles, its role is to help with the push-off process or plantar flexion process of movement, and that is typically more found in weight-bearing activities where there are running or jumping type movements. So if we were to reduce running and jumping type movements but try and keep people's cardio fitness up while they're doing rehabilitation exercises for an Achilles tendon, then cycling is something that we might suggest. Cycling does use your calf and your Achilles, but it uses them in slightly different ways. There is an element of using our gastrocnemius particularly more than our soleus as we push round on that pedal stroke, and there is also a second force that can come into play nearer the bottom if our foot was to slightly drop off the pedal at the back, which increases that angle and therefore a stretch through that Achilles tendon. So if cycling is comfortable for you and it's something that is comfortable, i.e. not very painful at all in that moment, which might be a 0 to 1 to maybe 2 out of 10, or our niggle pain, and again using pain as a guide, we've got some useful videos that we can attach underneath as to how much activity to do. So if it's comfortable in that moment, but also typically with an Achilles tendinopathy, we might not feel that pain in that moment. It might be something we need to monitor after and for the next 24 hours, including what we might feel when we first wake up and get up in the morning. If that is all completely comfortable, then cycling is a wonderful cross-training activity for you to do. Is it a strengthening rehab activity for an Achilles tendonitis or an Achilles tendon itself? No. So this is not something we would prescribe for somebody to get better. It's not something that we would tell somebody to do in the aim that we have rehabilitated their Achilles tendon by just doing cycling. That tends to be more strength work, which come in a form of calf raises or using machines in a gym. And that's something that you would need to be prescribed as an individual basis by a practitioner. Where you feel your pain for an Achilles tendinopathy might make a difference as to whether cycling aggravates it or not. So you can feel the Achilles pain in different areas. If it tends to be higher up, that's more a mid-portion Achilles tendinopathy. If it is lower down, near where it attaches into the back of that heel, it might be more likely to be an insertional tendinopathy. So we spoke about how on a cycle stroke, when we get near at the bottom, if our heel slightly drops off, we go into more of a dorsiflexed position. Dorsiflexion means pulling our toes back towards us. If we're dropping into more of that dorsiflexed position and we've got an insertional Achilles tendinopathy, it's a bit like having something that's irritated and we're stretching it and bringing it closer to the bone where it attaches. So it's a bit like having a bruise and pressing on it. Is that damaging the Achilles tendon? No, it's just aggravating it. So if your aim is to get back to doing sports and activities pain-free, then keeping pressing on a bruise, for example, isn't going to help you heal, and it might prolong how long it takes. So looking at correct bike setup is one of the things that's been mentioned in research papers, particularly your foot position on a pedal or in a cleat, to try and reduce the dropping off the back, especially if you have an insertional Achilles tendinopathy. And if that's the case, you then might find cycling is completely comfortable for you and something you can bring back in for cardio fitness or keep going with your sport while you're doing other rehabilitation for that. Other things that can cause an insertional Achilles tendinopathy in cycling is if there is direct pressure of the shoe onto the back of that heel. And sometimes with some of the footwear in cycling, if we are using that in cleats, they're pretty rigid and solid, and that can be what's putting pressure on that side. So changing footwear and not using cleats could be one option. A static bike or turbo trainer may allow you to do that with more ease. Alternatively, if you can in that footwear put in a heel wedge or raise that's about 1 centimetre or so in height, that just lifts your heel ever so slightly in that shoe, and it may just remove some of the rubbing on the back to allow that to happen. Equally, you might just need to rest from this activity until you have rehabilitated the back of that heel better with some strength exercises, or looking at, again, talking to a professional to find out whether it is a heel bursitis problem, an Achilles tendon problem, or a bit of both, or anything else going on for that matter. And if that has been decided that we need to relieve some pressure off the back, it may be we need to rest from cycling for this short period of time. And also finally, what we know with an Achilles tendinopathy is that it doesn't like a change or a peak in a load. So for example, I'm doing lots of activity and then I suddenly ramp it up. So I'm doing a lot of cycling on a static bike, and then I go to a spinning class and I suddenly start to up the intensity, or I might be standing longer, or I could be when I'm pulling up on that cleat as I'm cycling and moving around into that pedal stroke. Anything like that where there is an increase, a peak in the load, or indeed I'm now cycling outside of a static bike situation, so a mountain bike or a road bike, and if I'm doing that and I've suddenly upped the intensity or the mileage or changed the terrain I'm working on. So if we drew a graph of what you've done in the last however many months and then all of a sudden it's ramped up a little bit, you are more likely to get pain or symptoms relating to an Achilles tendonitis or tendinopathy. So it's about managing that load and how you bring that down. So again, looking at the pain and symptoms to help guide that whilst then working on the rehabilitation exercises. So using that niggle rule, that rule of 0 to 2 out of 10, does it irritate me in the moment and does it bother me for the next 24 hours, as a guide to find out how much cycling is comfortable for you, or what gears you can use, or how intense you can go, or whether you get out of the seat or whether you sit. For most of your spinning session, for example, you might want to alter what's happening there. There's a really nice study that I've referenced below, created in Saudi Arabia, looking at 511 cyclists and the Achilles tendon and problems that they had. And these were both amateur and also semi-professional. So when they were looking at that, the common themes were exactly what we've just discussed: not suddenly ramping up, the correct bike fit to make sure there wasn't that dropping off the back, and that we had well-fitting shoes and footwear, and then looking at the fitness to do that activity of the cyclist. So both body mass, but also looking at how strong their calves were and were they able to manage that activity before they went out. And it might be that you're able to manage the activity that you wanted to do, but you suddenly want to aim for a new event or start to train with people that maybe cycle faster than you. And in that situation, again, you might not have the strength or robustness within those calf muscles to be able to do that. So looking at strength work and maintaining that strength work to be able to do the sport that you want to do. So in summary, cycling can both be good and it can also be an annoyance to an Achilles tendinopathy. Can it damage it? It's very unlikely. So if we're looking at the positives, it can be used really nicely for cross training if we're trying to maintain fitness levels and we're trying to keep ourselves working out whilst we're doing rehabilitation exercises for an Achilles tendonitis or tendinopathy. Is it bad for it? Well, if we look at how we have set everything up on that bike, if we've looked at our footwear and whether they're irritating it, if we think we've got an insertional Achilles tendinopathy, there may be some things we need to avoid or change. And have we ramped up our activity with any peaks in that load? If we can address those sides to it, again, you might be able to go back to doing some of that sport or everything that you want to do. But if you have been diagnosed with an Achilles tendonitis or tendinopathy, this needs to go alongside those rehabilitation exercises.